Welcome to the Tipping Point Show. I'm Jimmy Evans. I have a great show today with Billy Crone, and we'll be talking about his new book, Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the Planned Destruction of America. This is going to be a powerful show. At the end, in our subscriber-only portion, Billy and I are going to be talking about the world in Israel, what's happening right now in Israel, which is a powder keg, but also very serious developments related to China and Russia. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that if you're a subscriber. If you're not, you can go to endtimes.com and become a subscriber. Right now we're going to talk about Billy's new book, Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the Planned Destruction of America. Billy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Always good to have you here. And so this obviously is a book that is exposing Klaus Schwab and also the Biden-Harris administration and how they're going along with all this. So who is Klaus Schwab and what is the Great Reset?
Klaus Schwab is basically the gentleman who's responsible for formulating what people may have heard other than the Great Reset, the World Economic Forum.
Right.
And that was in 1971. And it was basically this, initially this global think tank, economies, but that's really the smokescreen. He comes from Germany. His dad was buddies with the Nazis. And basically, in a nutshell, he's taking what Hitler wanted to do in the Third Reich. If Hitler would have won, he was going to renovate the planet under the Third Reich conditions, including creating a super race, the Aryan race. And of course, he didn't win. Right. So I believe that Klaus, coming out of Germany, his dad's buddies with the Nazis, he's basically gone another tack. Hitler didn't get the planet to bring in the Third Reich with his version of utopia, forced utopia, by means of physical military. He lost. It wouldn't work. Right. So I believe Klaus took a different tack. And this is what he's been doing since 1971, over 50 years.
Wow.
His tact is he's planted what I call his SS agents around the world, and not just around the world, Pastor Jimmy, but in key positions. And they're trained by Schwab, the World Economic Forum. In fact, he calls them the Young Global Leaders Program. So he trains these people into his way of thinking to basically take over the planet. And he really should call it the Rise of the Fourth Reich, but that's too obvious. So he calls it the Fourth Industrial Revolution and or the Great Reset. It's all the same thing. But basically, that's what he's done for the last 50 years. He's planted people in every corner of the world, every key position. You're talking about Justin Trudeau from Canada is straight from Klaus Schwab, doing his bidding. That's why Canada is experiencing the tyranny that it's experiencing. Angela Merkel from Germany, Emmanuel Macron from France. All these people are straight out, and they don't hide it. It's on their internet. They have a database. You can go search these people. But basically, what they want to do is install, go figure, a one world government, a one world religion, a cashless society, a global cashless society that is biometrically tied into people's body parts. And you're like, well, wait a second, you can call this the Great Reset all you want. That's what the Bible says is going to come one day with the Antichrist kingdom. So that's who he is. And what we did, this is actually our fourth and final study on our Klaus Schwab expose, and who is he, what's this World Economic Forum, and his Hitler ties and things of that nature. But this one answers the question, but wait a second, I get it Canada, I get it Germany, I get it, France, around the world. But what about America? Does Klaus really have his SS agents in America? Yes.
Absolutely.
And we demonstrate that it is not by chance that they cheated and shoved Biden in the last time. And this is why they want Harris in a second time to finish the job. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are hirelings of Klaus Schwab. They are here to do his will. And you're going, well, what's his will? Well, the Great Reset has two sides to it. The first side, again, as I mentioned, is an economic reset. They want to crash the existing global system on purpose, the monetary system, so they can have that as an excuse to flip it into a digital cashless society. Right. Well, wait a second. If you're going to crash the global economy to reset it with this new cashless one, then the current one's got to go. Well, who's the current one? That's us. That's America. That's the dollar. So Joe Biden and Harris was brought in from Klaus to do the job, to purposely crash the American economy as an excuse to now ride in as the saviors and flip the switch. Biden, over 2 years ago, already signed the executive order for America to go cashless, the digital dollar. Some even joke and call it Biden bucks and things of that nature. Biden has progressed quite a bit. They're not quite there yet, though. They're getting close. They have done nothing but destroy our economy on purpose. They're not just making dumb decisions. They're deliberate decisions at the behest of Klaus Schwab. But if Harris gets in, and they want her in, they're doing all they can to get her in, she will finish the job, Pastor Jimmy. She will purposely destroy our economy. You think it's bad now? You ain't seen nothing yet, because that's their goal. And they want all this in place by 2030.
2030. So what evidence is there, Billy, like the Biden-Harris administration, because Joe Biden goes to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland every year.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's a disciple. He really is a disciple. And when Billy says these things, Billy documents these things. And you've done documentaries on this.
Yeah.
And the thing that I appreciate about your research is you'll sit there and say something, and then you'll show them saying it.
Yep.
And so they're not hiding their agenda. So the Biden-Harris administration right now, what are they doing to further Klaus Schwab agenda?
Oh, yeah. Great question. Well, first of all, you're right. We prove, because that sounds like, man, that's a conspiracy theory. You mean to tell me that the person in the White House right now and Harris, Biden, that they're really hirelings from Schwab? Yes. And you're right. We if you get the DVDs, we show you the video. If you get the book, of course, we transcribe it. But it's easy to demonstrate with Biden. Biden has had an almost 25-year history with the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab directly. In fact, on tape, and we transcribe it there for the book, we actually have Klaus Schwab introducing Joe Biden, and he literally says with a big smile on his face, he's totally gleeful, that Joe Biden, quote, "You have been one of our hardest working disciples."
Wow.
It's on tape, man. And so it's not a conspiracy theory. Harris, easy to demonstrate. You could just do a quick search, Kamala Harris, World Economic Forum, and while she's been in the White House, it's like, where's she doing? She ain't fixing the border. That's for sure what she's been traipsing around the planet, Pastor Jimmy. You can see the articles. She's pushing the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset agenda around the world.
Wow.
Her husband, Doug Imhoff, he is also all the time does speeches at the World Economic Forum. So they're all coming from the same camp. And that's the important thing. Once you understand who they're working for, then it starts to make sense why they're doing what they're doing. They're not here to help America. They are here as hirelings to purposely destroy America. And you don't get that until you understand what the plan is. The plan goes back to Schwab, the Great Reset, crash the American economy so we can flip it to the digital. That's the first half of the Great Reset. But how are they doing that? Again, we document literally from day one of Joe Biden being shoved into the White House exactly how they are purposely dismantling our economy to crash it on purpose. Number one, we deal with the oil and the energy, right? What was the very first thing he did the very first day he got in office? It was not by chance.
Just stop all the fracking, stop all the drilling.
Exactly. Now, why? Because even secular economists admit that if you're going to have a thriving economy, like we did when Trump was in, the first thing you got to do is have readily access available energy and cheap energy.
Right.
Well, that's what Trump brought in. That's why the economy was booming like never before. And it didn't take long. No. Well, reverse it. You start shutting it down, guess what? It doesn't take long to what? Begin to destroy your economy. That's why it wasn't an environmental issue. It wasn't just, boy, Biden's making dumb decisions. No, they're deliberate decisions. He attacked that first because that's the first leg that you need to quickly destroy any economy in any country. Right. And then, of course, that's what it did. It began to destroy the finances and the economy itself. As we saw, everything went through the roof and inflation and things of that nature. Well, once that happens, then what came next? Well, that's when we saw the food prices skyrocketing. People say, man, even things like butter is way up. Going to a drive-through McDonald's is like triple the price. Well, that's what they want, right? Yeah. And you go back to the Great Reset agenda, they also want to bring in controlling your food supply. They want you dependent upon them for food. And so again, if you make prices so high, then people clamor at government, help us out, give us, and that's what they want. So it began to affect food and commerce. And then it moved into the next phase. And the next phase, of course, was people began to lose their jobs. And things of that nature because it's just too expensive for a business, and only the big ones, the corporations who, by the way, work for Schwab, they continue, but the little moms and pops, they begin to dry up. But again, then you lose your job, you lose your livelihood, whether it's the business owner or the people who work for the business. And what do? You cry out for the government. Help, I need your help. Right. That's what they want. They want you completely dependent. Then it began to affect the real estate and property. man, it's gone through the roof.
Through the roof.
Right? And then people now, they not only cannot afford a house, but some people can't afford to keep their house and things of that nature. And that's what the energy costs and all that's going through the roof and all that stuff. But that's what they want, because another part of the Great Reset is a 15-minute city. And so we want you to lose your job because we're going to dictate where you live and what you eat and cannot eat. We want you to cry out, government save us. Right?
15-minute city. Now, this has already taken place in China, but this is, they won't allow you to travel outside of a 15-minute radius of where you live.
Correct. Right. And people say, well, they ain't going to do that to me. Well, first of all, the bombshell, and we actually expose this. It isn't just China, Pastor Jimmy, and it's not even just Europe. There's already, already here in the United States of America, multiple 15-minute cities.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. We document that. So that's how far their agenda has gone. And just to explain real quick, and we have a whole giant study on 15-minute cities. What is that? But 15-minute cities is basically you will be confined within a 15-minute radius of where you get allowed to live. Even if you can keep your home. Most people be corralled into an area, basically a apartment complex style living. But don't worry, it's going to save the planet and it's going to be good for you. It's going to be really convenient. No, it's basically a digital prison planet. Right. And this is why they want to bring in the digital economy, because that's where they're going to control everything we do. Yep. And don't do. And people don't realize, well, we're already cashless. Who cares if they flip it to go cashless? Who cares if Biden already signed the executive order to go cashless? I'd hardly use cash. No, think about that. When that becomes the only option, here's what they can do. And it's digital, which means it's electronic, so they can do some pretty savvy things to you. Number one, they combine it with Big Brother technology. And by the way, this is already going on in China, yes. Has been for many years, yes. Which Klaus, we had exposed on tape. He wants to bring that model to the world with this Great Reset. That's why Joe Biden, we call him China Joe, and Harris, Kamala, because they work for Klaus, who wants to bring this China model. But the digital prison plan is, when you got only digital currency, you say, well, they ain't going to tell me, what to do. Well, if they catch you saying anything bad about the government, it's digital. They'll delete half your money. Yeah. And that's no joke. They can do it because they'll have access. It's in a universal system now, and it's all digital.
So right? In China, just to validate what you're saying, in China right now, a person jaywalks, they can use facial recognition. Everything's being videoed. Mm-hmm. Cameras everywhere. Yeah. They can use facial recognition software to identify the person who just jaywalked. They take money out of your account automatically. The fine, they don't send you a bill. They take it out of your account immediately. Yeah. Then it goes against your social credit score. Yeah. And so everything that you do against their will goes against your social credit score. Then you can't travel. Mm-hmm. You can't purchase certain things. Right. All kinds of restrictions. And this is a communist dictatorial system that depends on that technology. So when you're talking about a cashless society, and that's what the Bible says, there's mm-hmm. going to be a cashless society that's controlled one world. Right. Okay. So this is just moving the ball in that direction.
Yes, exactly. And that's what people need to realize. This is how serious this time frame is, this election is, because if Kamala gets in, Pastor Jimmy, she's going to finish the job. Oh, yeah. And to finish the job is destroy our economy on purpose, and they're going to bring this system, this digital prison planet, to, yes, even America. It's a planned destruction of America. You say something bad online, they'll take your money away. Yeah. They could also do a couple other things. You're a 15-minute city. Well, I'm going to go where I want to go. No, you won't. Because number one, this is another thing. Why are they forcing electric vehicles and everything else on the planet? Why, Harris and Biden, it ain't about saving the planet. It's about controlling where you can and cannot go. Yeah. First of all, there's a certain radius that you can go with electric vehicle, which is not very long. But more importantly, if you do something wrong, they'll shut your vehicle off. Yeah. And you won't go anywhere. Yeah. Even if you have a charge. And so that's the control factor. You say, well, I'm just going to get out of this 15-minute city. No, you won't. They can do what's called geofencing of your money. And so they can track you and your money by a satellite. And when you try to make it out of your 15-minute barrier, your money automatically shuts off. They also have what's called a digital timestamp, that if you don't use your money by a certain point to help the economy, then it just goes away. They take it from you. So you can't even make a savings to get out. So that's why people are saying this is a concentration camp, a digital concentration camp. This is what they're building. You're going like, well, that sounds like the Nazis. Yeah, that sounds like something China would do. Yeah, that's why He's China Joe, Kami Kamala. This is what they want to bring to America.
Yeah, well, it's the technology, and I did a message at our conference a couple weeks ago, and you were speaking at the conference also, but I did a message called The Signs of the Very End Times.
Yeah.
And so we've had end time signs for 76 years since Israel became a nation.
Yeah.
But in order for the end to come, there has to be technology.
Yeah.
Revelation 11 says that when the two witnesses are killed, the inhabitants of the earth gloat over them. In other words, everyone on earth is seeing it at the same time. Well, we have right now, that couldn't have happened 30 or 40 years ago, even with satellite television.
Right.
Today, there's 6.92 billion smartphones in the world. There's only 8 billion people.
Yeah.
You take away the babies and the little kids, every person on earth right now, not a cell phone, a smartphone, can watch the same thing at the same time, because John wrote that 1900 years ago.
Yeah.
And you think about the inhabitants of the earth are going to gloat over a 3.5-day event. Yeah, the technology exists. Well, the technology that you're talking about, see, when the rapture happens, the technology to have a central control of the economy doesn't have to happen until the middle of the tribulation.
Right.
Is that right? The Revelation 13?
Oh yeah. That's when most people believe that he implements the mark of the beast system. And I would agree with you. And back to, I've said for a couple years now, this is the importance of the development of AI, artificial intelligence, because Revelation 13 says they're controlling all the buying and selling. They're able to do a global communication to say, you need to worship this guy. They need to also have a big brother, a global system, that basically, because they give the order, and if you don't say yes to worship this guy, it says you will be killed. So that means they got to know everybody's geolocation. They got to know whether or not you responded and said yes or no, etc. Blah blah blah. So that's a global big brother. So you throw all that. It's a global context. Now we've had the satellites, we've had the computers, we've had even the microchipping abilities, but this is on a global basis. My point is, you can't hire enough people to run that global back-end system. And this is in real time buying and selling, real-time notification. Did they worship the beast or not? What did they say? Where are they at? But guess what, Pastor Jimmy? Now with the development of artificial intelligence, it is superhuman. It could do what no amount of humans can. And that's what's also being built into this B system. Call it Great Reset all you want. It's the B system. That's why they're big on AI. In fact, China who's already doing this to their population, they are boasting that they are going to be the world leader in AI by, shocker, here it comes, 2030, the same date.
What do you think the 2030 significance is? That's 6 years from now, really 5.5 years from now. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the significance of 2030 is? Well,
that's their target date. Yeah. Right, that's what they've said on tape since the pandemic. The pandemic was the trigger to get it started, and because that's how they bring all this new world order.
So everything you're saying, 2030 is when they want to have
exactly, it. And they don't hide it. I was over last fall in Scotland. I was I just got off the plane. I'm heading towards the baggage, and of course on the escalator thing, and right there in this big gigantoid mural, 2030. It's everywhere, Pastor Jimmy. But so they say this is when they want this into play. That's why it's important for people to realize Joe Biden got them pretty far on their agenda. He's done a real good job for them destroying our economy.
Someone asked me back in 2020 when the election, someone said, why do you think the Lord would allow Joe Biden to win? Mm-hmm. And I said, because it's the end times. Mm-hmm. And he will architect, the beast system and the Klaus Schwab desires more than anybody else.
Yeah.
I believe that, and of course the election is going to take place here in November. And we're obviously being very partisan in this, but we're being partisan in the sense of end time prophecy.
Right.
And what's going to happen to America. Mm-hmm. Because I love America, and I know people watch this all over the world, but we love America, and I want what's best for America. And you see what's happened in the last 3.5 years. Also, talk about the border for just a minute.
I'm so glad you brought that. Open. Yeah, and again, this is why they want Harris in the second term to finish the job, because they got the 2030 agenda. It's bad enough that they're fulfilling, dare I say, laying the foundation for Revelation 13, the cashless side, the mark of the beast system, Biden and Harris, the Great Reset. They're also doing another thing. Revelation 17 says that in the 7-year tribulation, the Antichrist kingdom is going to be split up into 10 horns, ruled by 10 kings, and it says specifically there, once that gets established, they have one purpose, and that's to hand their authority over to the Antichrist. Right. So the question is, do we see any signs of the planet being split up into specifically 10, not 122, not 5, 10 chunks to manage. Yes, this is also another thing that people don't realize is a part of the Great Reset. This is a map that was produced by the Club of Rome back in the early 70s, which we have on tape. Klaus Schwab admitted he's the one who got them their start, so they're working hand in hand. So it isn't just developing a cashless society for purposes of control. They want to split the planet up into 10 kingdoms. We've got the map, we show you the map. Now here's what's interesting. If you look at that map, the world is not only in 10 kingdoms, but here up at the upper left, there's the number one kingdom is a merger of Canada, US, and Mexico. And then you're going like, well, wait a second. That's exactly what the Biden-Harris administration doing. This is why they don't want to fix the border. They have no plans on fixing the border. They want a borderless community. And this is what Biden has been doing. This is why they want Harris in the second time to finish the job. They want to combine Canada, US, and Mexico into one of these 10 horn kingdoms. And then we will become basically like the European Union. And the term that they're already saying that they're going to call us now, we will not be United States of America anymore. We will be the North American Union, right?
Wow.
And I think, for me personally, I think that kind of answers the question, why don't you really see America mentioned in Bible prophecy? Because America as we know it will no longer be in existence. We will be one of the 10 merged with Canada, US, and Mexico. It's on tape. We've got the map. This is the plan. And this is the other thing that Biden and Harris were brought in to do. And so once again, you understand who they work for. Once you understand the game plan, then it starts to make sense why they're doing what they're doing. It's not just dumb decisions, it's deliberate decisions. And that's why we titled that specifically, The Planned Destruction of America. If the Great Reset is ever going to happen, America has to go.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you understand Bible prophecy, the things that are happening in the world right now, Billy, and we're going to be talking in the subscriber-only portion about what's happening in Israel, Russia, China, it's all Bible prophecy. What we're saying, this is Bible prophecy coming true right before our eyes. Last October 7th, I think, was a wake-up call for a lot of people. And what's happening now in Israel, the seriousness of what's happening in Israel right now between them, especially them and Iran, it has brought the world's attention to this tiny little nation in the Middle East. At the United Nations meeting last week, Psalm 2, Mark Hitchcock talked at the conference about Psalm 2, why do the nations rage, why do the people devise of anything against the Lord and his anointed? At the United Nations General Assembly meeting last week, they were raging. Netanyahu gave a speech and half the people walked out.
Yeah.
And then you have Erdogan from Turkey, you have the Saudi prince, you have the Jordan, all these nations, and they're raging against Israel. They're raging against them. And the next step is going to be a military imposition of a two-state solution. That's called Armageddon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when the world marches against Jerusalem. Well, it's happening right before our eyes. So America is not in Bible prophecy.
Right.
You could try real hard to try to make it fit, but it just really doesn't. Why aren't we there? First of all, the rapture will decimate America.
Yeah.
Okay, but also we're already falling. I mean, we don't have very far to fall.
Right.
So how can people? You have the documentary on this.
Oh yeah.
So how can people get the documentary?
Yeah, our teaching website, getalifemedia.com. I'd like to say we used to be able to offer these things on Amazon, but Amazon cancel cultured us specifically from this information.
Right.
So the Lord blessed us with their own ability to produce the books, but we also had the DVDs. And we've made it easy for people. If you get the DVDs, we don't copyright our material. We actually tell you, please make copies. Pastor Jimmy, we're trying to get this information out as fast as we can, because the reality is basically this. A vote for Kamala is a vote for the destruction of the United States of America. Not just economically, but they want to destroy us to where we're going out of existence. I get it, you're not going to stop the 7-year tribulation. My hope is that as a Christian, that we would make wise choices so that we can maximize the freedoms that we have as much as we can for Christ until he comes and gets us. But this is the reality. This is not even a geopolitical issue. This is a national sovereignty issue. And these guys are hirelings. This is what they've been brought in. But our website, getalifemedia.com, you can get the books, get the DVDs, get it out as fast as you can, make a difference.
Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the planned destruction of America. And I know that this program today is the most partisan that I've ever been on the Tipping Point show. Because I don't tell people how to vote. I'm very careful about that. Now, in the subscriber portion, I'm political about Israel and about morality all the time. But in this show today, the reason that I'm glad that Billy's here and he's saying the things he's saying is we're in trouble. This is not a normal election that's coming up. We have a serious existential threat to America. Yeah. We are crumbling from within. Kamala Harris was the most radical senator. She had the most radical voting record of any senator. And so she's in bed with Klaus Schwab, just the way Biden is too. And so we'll see what happens in the election. I hope that you're praying for the election. I hope you take it very seriously.
Amen.
That if you're a believer, that you're registered to vote and you go vote. Don't be a fatalist and just say Jesus is coming. Who cares? It matters. Not just on a presidential level, but on a state level, on senators, congressmen, everybody, mayors. Everything matters in the world that we're living in right now. And when you see the polls right now, Billy, and this was true in the last several elections, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
You're just seeing half the people over here, we're a divided nation. And so it's a very, very critical time in human history related to, the rapture and the end. How close do you think we are? I know we're close, but how close?
Well, the rapture is what's called an imminent event. It can happen at any moment.
Yeah.
It can happen while we're doing this broadcast, and that would be fantastic. No offense, I'm having a great time, by the way. But we need to wake up every day and realize it's really that close.
Right.
But really, we also, all these, as shocking as it is, as threatening as it is, as concerning as it is, with Joe Biden, the Great Reset, Antichrist Kingdom, Cashless Society, the Tin Horn Kingdom, really what we need to do as Christians to translate that is, it's God's loving reminder, Pastor Jimmy. I'm never going to tell you exactly when, because I know your hearts. You goof off to the very end.
Yeah.
But he gives us many signs, and that's all this is. These are signs that the 7-year tribulation is getting close. We leave prior, so when I give you signs of the 7-year getting close, what I'm really saying is, church, be ready, because I can come back at any moment, closer than it's ever been.
And the birth pangs are harder. Jesus said it would be like birth pangs. Birth pangs get worse and they get closer together, and that's what we're seeing right now on a global scale. We're going to go into the subscriber-only portion of the program now. Billy's going to stay with me. We're talking about some breaking news that's coming out of Israel about a potential strike by Iran. Now, we tape these shows on Tuesday, so this is Tuesday, October 1st. This will post tomorrow morning on the 2nd, so by the time you see this, you may already be seeing what's happening in Israel. But there's also very serious warnings about China and Russia. So we're going to talk about current events in Israel, but also China and Russia, and news reports very troubling coming out about both of those nations and threats that they're making to the rest of the world. And so if you're not a subscriber at endtimes.com, go there right now. It's $7 a month, about the cost of a meal at McDonald's. You can have this information come to you. I have the podcast every week, Tipping Point. You get the entire podcast without ads. Mark Hitchcock has a podcast on Thursday. Brian Schrauger, he is our Israel correspondent, has one on Tuesday. And then we have breaking news, articles, all types of things that happen on endtimes.com. One of the things that we hear most from our subscribers is people say, before I was a subscriber, I was anxious about the things that were happening in the world. When I became a subscriber and I started listening to what you were saying, I'm comforted and I'm excited about Jesus' return. That's when we know we're being successful. When you understand Bible prophecy, it helps you to contextualize what's happening in the world, and rather than being nervous, you realize Jesus is coming. And when the worst of it happens, we're not going to be here. So if you're not a subscriber, $7 a month. And by the way, we have a 7-day free trial, so you can check us out. But become a subscriber, $7 a month, endtimes.com. Billy and I are going to go now into the subscriber-only portion, talking about Israel, China, and Russia. So stay tuned. So Billy, we're taping this on Tuesday, October the 1st. And we just heard a report coming out of Israel about potential strike from Iran.
Yeah.
And when this will post tomorrow morning on Wednesday the 2nd. Very, very serious situation in Israel right now. They have found massive caches of weapons in Lebanon. They have the ground invasion that's going on now.
Right.
And they've found these massive caches in these underground tunnels that showing you what they were planning on doing.
Right.
You have Iran that now, by tomorrow morning we'll know whether they attacked or not. But they're now, in this attack, the intelligence from the United States says these are ballistic missiles. These are not the drones and the slower missiles of last time.
Yep.
If they shoot ballistic missiles at Israel, they arrive in about 12 minutes. So they have about a 12-minute heads up.
Right.
The United States is prepared to defend. Of course, Israel's prepared to defend. But part of the problem, Billy, is the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly met last week, and there was rabid hatred for Israel from many of the world leaders. But Netanyahu gave a speech, and he told Iran, if you strike us, we will strike you back.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a dangerous scenario.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and I think one of the interesting, dare I say, unknowns in this whole situation is Joe Biden. What's his track record with Israel? It's not good. And then on the one hand, it looks like they support, but then they don't. And so you're going like, okay, so we're hoping America, the Biden administration, would kick in and help that support. But it's like you try to guess what this guy's going to do.
Yeah.
And if America doesn't come in, then that's just going to make things much worse. But you're right. When you're going to the point where, it's just not like Hamas with some shorter, smaller missiles and stuff. That's been going on for quite some time, especially with Israel, what they're doing now and defending themselves, and they have a right to do that. But when you're talking these giant missiles, ballistic, oh man, that's an act of war.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
One of them hits, you're in trouble.
Yeah, so I mean, this is not a small deal. This isn't what we've been, dare I say, and maybe this might be some of the alarm. People say, oh, this has been going on for a long time, and they're just whatever, and they'll get over it, it'll calm down again. Well, that might be the concern with this. No, this might be the official ratcheting it up to where we're literally now headed towards a World War III scenario. And the other aspect, you mentioned Russia and China. Well, you got to understand the interplay that's going on with these countries. They're bound. They are politically bound to support Iran. And have made those promises. So if Israel, which they have a right to do so, especially if you're going to do a gigantoid ballistic missile at us, then they're bound to step in. And then not just politically with their promises that they've made as they work together, but geopolitically, economically, they're all intertwined. Then you go back into the BRICS scenario, right, where there's circumventing the U.S. dollar, and they're all working together to basically create their own currency that they could work and trade in and all that stuff. It's the same countries. They're all involved in this scenario. And so again, it's going to elicit their response. And then you go back to the scripture. You're like, well, Gog and Magog, and who's the key players coming against Israel? Well, these same countries that are bound to support Israel. And so that's ultimately where we need to see is like, how's America really going to respond? Unfortunately, if we had somebody else in office, I think it would be a no-brainer. Oh, no, America's going to step in. We don't know. And then the other thing too is, okay, what is going to be the response? Because if this is going down, then watch who steps up to the plate to support Iran.
Right.
And if it's the ones mentioned here, we are headed towards an Ezekiel 38 scenario.
Well, so this show is going to post October 2nd, and that's the beginning of Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
At 6 p.m. in Israel, which will be about 11 a.m. Central Time here in America. And I always look at Israel time. God doesn't go by Texas time, he goes by Israel time. So about 11 a.m. today, when this show posts, Rosh Hashanah begins. That's a 2-day feast. There's 7 feasts of Israel, 4 in the spring and 3 in the fall. The 4 in the spring were literally fulfilled to the day. Jesus was crucified on the Feast of Passover, buried on the Feast of Unleavened Bread, was resurrected to the Feast of First Fruits, and then 50 days later, Pentecost happened. The Holy Spirit fell, and the church was birthed on the Feast of Pentecost. So we know that they're a prophetic grid. We know that they're telling us the future, okay? And God called them convocations, which means dress rehearsal. So now we have the next feast, which is a joyous feast. It's not a fasting feast like some of the others, and like Day of Atonement. But this is you eat apples and honey, and you're happy, and they blow trumpets. But in the Mishnah, which is the record of the oral tradition of the Jews, they call it the wedding day of the Messiah. They call it the day of the awakening blast, the dead in Christ rise first. So they have a lot of different ways that they describe that. And so what I teach is Jesus can come anytime. The rapture is imminent. But at some point in time, just like the 4 spring feasts were fulfilled, there's going to be a fulfillment of the Feast of Trumpets some year. Could be the rapture. I mean, and so in the next 2 days, 11 a.m., I'm talking about Central Time, U.S. now, 11 a.m. today to 11 a.m. on Friday will be Rosh Hashanah. And the reason I'm saying that is this, because you and I both agree, Billy, that the rapture and the Gog-Magog war will probably happen around the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think one out of necessity, some people want to put a longer gap between the rapture and the 7-year tribulation. I'm not one of those. I think because when you have the disappearance of millions of people, and then all of a sudden you got, like Ezekiel 38, you got literally World War III officially erupting in the Middle East with some other, maybe the global economy crashes and a couple of dirty nukes get dropped, and which, by the way, those in the occult, that's what they want to happen. But to me, that's the perfect scenario.
You came out of Satanism, so you know.
Oh, exactly. They think the Antichrist is a good guy. They think Lucifer is a good guy, and we Christians got it all wrong. We need to listen to Lucifer to bring in the Luciferian order. He will bring peace to the planet. It's a complete carbon copy, counterfeit of Christ coming back at the end of the 7-year tribulation. But you look out of the ashes of that scenario, it doesn't make sense for me, if you were the evil one, that you would just let people disappear and not capitalize on that.
Right.
But if millions of people disappear on the planet, the rapture, and then bang, here comes Ezekiel 38, right hard on the heels of that, not some several year gap, and then a couple other things, what's going to happen to the planet? People will be psychologically prepared to receive the Antichrist. You thought with the last global thing that happened, with the bug that went around the planet, and then people cried out, hey, bring back normal? You thought that was bad? You ain't seen nothing yet. Imagine the disappearance of millions of people, specifically only Christians, and then World War III erupts in the Middle East and all this stuff. People will en masse saying, hey, I don't care what you do. I don't care who you are, be he God or the devil. We will follow anybody that can lead us out of this morass. And certainly that's the perfect scenario for the Antichrist to rise.
Well, you look at what's happening in Israel right now in the provocation with Iran. It's just a tinderbox. I mean, Turkey, Russia, it's a tinderbox. And in what I've said, I'm not predicting anything, so I never set dates, never predict, but we're going into Rosh Hashanah, which could be some year the fulfillment of the rapture, or the rapture be the fulfillment of the Feast of Trumpets. And at the same time, we have Israel and Iran nose to nose, staring each other down.
Right.
And so it wouldn't take much. And we do have reports now. And Brian Schrauger, I asked him this yesterday, we went live on YouTube, what the intelligence is in Israel concerning Iran's nuclear program. And the intelligence is they're about a month away from having enough nuclear material for 9 nuclear weapons. Well, and again, I've taught this for years. In my book, Tipping Point, I said this several years ago, and that is Israel, there's a 0% chance of Israel allowing Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
Right.
It's an existential threat.
Yeah.
And so they will preemptively bomb them, which I believe could be the hook in the jaw. Ezekiel 38 talks about how God is going to put a hook in the jaw of Russia, Iran, Turkey, all these Islamic nations except for Russia, and pull them down the mountains of Israel and destroy them there. And that's God's answer to radical Islam, jihadist Islam, and also to Russia. But it could happen in a matter of hours. I mean, everything is ready. And so there is this intelligence now, and again, by the time you're watching this has already happened, but there's this intelligence that, first of all, the nuclear program is there almost. Yep. The other intelligence is Iran's prepared to attack. I wouldn't put it past Israel to preemptively attack and go after their nuclear programs, go after their ports, their oil facilities, and things like that. But one way or the other, the scenario is very serious. And this article related to Russia, this is from the Jerusalem Post, but listen to what this says, Billy. Russia warns that World War III may be coming.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it says Russia, I'll read just a little bit of this. Russia said the West was playing with fire by considering allowing Ukraine to strike deep into Russia with Western missiles, and cautioned the United States on Tuesday that World War III would not be confined to Europe. Now, this is a direct threat to the United States, and Russian ships and planes have been very close to the United States in Alaska and on the east and west coast. Ukraine attacked Russia's western Kursk region on August 6th and have carved out a slice of territory in the biggest foreign attack on Russia since World War II. President Vladimir Putin said there would be a worthy response from Russia to the attack. Sergei Lavrov, who served as Putin's foreign minister for more than 20 years, said that the West was seeking to escalate the Ukraine war and was asking for trouble by considering Ukrainian requests to loosen curbs on using foreign supplied weapons. Now, the United States claims they didn't know. They didn't know that the weapons they were sending were going to be used for such a long-range strike. But Putin, they've got 6,500 nuclear weapons from the Soviet era. They've got a bunch of weapons. That's all they've got. And I say this, and some people really don't believe it. The economy of Russia is smaller than the economy of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't have a massive economy, but they've got a lot of nuclear weapons.
Right.
And they use those to their own advantage. So Russia is going to be a part of the Gog-Magog coalition.
Right.
Okay, but the bear is upset. Mm-hmm. And Putin's a dangerous human being to begin with. So what do you think could be a provocation for Russia to join the Gog-Magog coalition?
Well, oh man, great question, because I've said this for the last couple of years. I did a deep dive on the Jewish people and a study, but the Ezekiel 38 scenario, one of the I think key words that's mentioned in there is hooks, plural.
Oh, wow.
It's not singular, it's plural. Hooks, the hooks in the jaw of Russia, of Gog and Magog. And so I think there's, according to the scripture, there's multiple things. It's not just going to be one thing, it's going to be a cascading event of things. Certainly, the hook in the jaw with having to, and needing, and not only with their geopolitical promises, but the way it's tied in with their economy, to support Iran and what's going on right now with the minister. That certainly could be a hook that'll bring them down as well. But if you look at a couple other possible hooks, I think it's a combination of things. Number one, Israel's landmass. If your goal is to take over the planet or to be controlling of that region, Israel, a little strip of Israel, not very big as we all know, right? Smaller than the state of New Jersey, but it's a very strategic for military purposes, because if you look at it on a map, it connects three continents, a little strip, right? And so if you're from south, like from Africa, and you want to go up to Europe or over to Asia, you got to go through Israel. And vice versa. If you're from Asia and you want to go down south, or you're Europe south, you got to go through Israel. So that piece of land is very strategic from a military perspective. And whoever owns that little strip, that will help them to control a major part of the planet. So number one, I think that's a possible another hook. And then it's interesting that Ezekiel, I think chapter 5, mentions that when God placed Israel there, he placed them in the center of the nations. And boy, did he ever.
I'm telling you.
The other thing is, a lot of people, this doesn't usually get much target, but is Israel and their water supply. In fact, for many years, other thing besides what's going on with the terrorists, there's been water wars. And if you're in an area where you got plenty of water, you're like, who cares? Well, I come from Vegas, from desert.
Yeah.
A lot of desert over there as well. So water is a huge thing. A lot of conflict has been going on with the water for a long time between Israel and whatever. But the point is this, Israel, when they came back to the land in 1948, didn't have much water. What water there was disease, mosquito-infected swamps, whatever. But ever since then, they've renovated the land and the water supply. And they have built a complete system of canals. They are the world's leader in irrigation technology and things of that nature, and the world's leader in desalination plants. Oh, wow. And so Israel has gone from having hardly any water to disease water to now they not only have enough water for their country, and it's ever growing, they export 20% more water than what they need to this. So they're in a major power position. So that's another possible hook, because you need water for livelihood, for life, and things of that nature. So you got land, you got water. Here's a big one: oil and energy. Now this goes directly back to Gog and Magog, right? And most people don't realize, as you mentioned, Russia, the only reason why Russia is still around is because of oil and energy. Right. That's the thing that's keeping their economy afloat, right? And so if you really want to get at Russia, then you need to attack their oil and energy, because they are the major energy exporter for the whole region, including Europe. Yep. And we actually mentioned this and bring this out on tape. That's why, and this is not a conspiracy theory, we have him saying it on tape, that's why Biden blew up Nord Stream 2, right? He's poking the bear, right? That's why he's doing such sanctions on Russia and China, because it's forcing them to dump the dollar to create this BRICS, which is further going to destroy the dollar, right? Because now they have something else they can go to. But they're doing that because the Nord Stream pipeline was one of the major pipelines that Russia provided energy to Europe. Yeah. So they're affecting Russia's economy. And you keep that up, right? And then they're gonna have to do something because that's the only thing that's keeping them afloat economically. Now, add to that this. Israel, for years, for decades when they came back, that was the joke in Israel. Why did all these Muslim nations get oil and here we ain't got nothing? Maybe Abraham took a wrong turn is the phrase that they use. Not anymore. Israel is now sitting on the biggest oil and gas deposits on the planet. Wow. Some of them they're rightly called, just one of them. There's multitudes of them. It's called Leviathan.
Wow.
And it's so big that Israel is now, and this is secular reports, they are going to become energy independent for the next 100 years. And they keep finding them. They find them now in the Golan Heights.
Wow.
The area where they have rightly so, it was their land in the beginning anyway,
sure.
Genesis 12, Genesis 15, with Hamas giving them access to the coast there, that's direct access to the oil and energy. So my point is that Israel is now, they're saying, going to become the major oil energy exporter in the whole region, including Europe.
Wow.
Wait a second, Pastor Jim, you know who that's going to affect? Russia. Yeah. So here you are, you got Biden poking the bear, blowing up the pipeline, right? Doing these sanctions, forcing them to dump the dollar, which is what he wants, Biden. And then Israel is going to take over your business? At some point, you have to intervene. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's another obvious, and that's just recent. And the more they dig, the more they drill on land, off land, they just keep finding more. Go figure. So hooks plural. And and this one usually, I'll just real quick bring this one up. This usually doesn't get brought up. The Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, been there, right? Obviously, learned the lesson. Don't shave right before you go in there.
The water is heavy.
Yeah,
it's salty.
But most people don't realize the Dead Sea is the most valuable mineral deposit on planet Earth.
Yes, it is.
In fact, it's estimated that the minerals that are in the Dead Sea, it contains 4 times the wealth of the United States.
Wow.
And then recent political things, Russia, Ukraine. One of the things that we have, because of that ongoing conflict, that we've become now short of is fertilizer. Right. Coming out of Ukraine. Well, that's one of the big minerals that you would have if you could get your hands on the Dead Sea. Not only that, you got other minerals that also, to your heart's content, would provide the minerals needed for explosives that any military, if you get your hands on that, and then there's even more on top of that. So my point is, you put all this together, you got the geopolitical hook, you're bound to support Iran, and then you got another hook with the land itself, military strategic, the water is necessity in that whole region, and then the oil and the energy, and then now you got this mineral deposit. It's the most valuable piece of real estate on planet Earth.
Well, we were there a couple of years ago. We were in the Valley of Jezreel, Valley of Armageddon. And it's this massive valley, and they were talking about this was the control point of the earth for thousands of years, because if a military you couldn't get over there without going right through Israel, because it is the bridge in the world, the land bridge of the world. So what we're seeing right now related to the Gog and Magog war, Ezekiel 38 says they're come to take booty and plunder and to take back the land. Well, the Muslims want the land.
Right.
Russia wants the booty and plunder.
Right.
And so they're going to come and do exactly what the Bible prophesied they were going to do. And saying it could be 10 years from now, but the scenario right now is I don't know how much longer you can prevent, world war.
Yeah.
I just think we're there. There's one more article here. This is from Fox Business. China expert sounds alarm over war signals. Xi Jinping is about to do something truly horrendous. I'll read a little bit of this article. Chinese President Xi Jinping may be on the verge of doing something horrendous after sending 2 war signals within 10 days of each other, says one expert. Gordon Chang, senior fellow at the Gatestone Institute and author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, joined Fox Business Mornings with Maria on Thursday to discuss the U.S. adversary's rising aggression. His comments come after the Ministry of Defense of the People's Republic of China announced that it had launched an intercontinental ballistic missile on Wednesday morning. This was last week. The missile, which carried a dummy warhead and was not targeting any particular nation, fell into the ocean without incident. The People's Liberation Army Rocket Force claims that the launch was part of its routine military training calendar. That's a war signal. That's the second war signal that we've gotten from China in the last 10 days, which means Xi Jinping is about to do something truly horrendous, Chang warned. Chang argued that the United States needs to stop underwriting the enemy, and the country needs a president who will prepare Americans for what could happen. We have a Biden administration, this is Gordon Chang again, we have a Biden administration that is not willing to talk to the American people about the imminence of what China is prepared to do. Putin made those threats prior to invading Ukraine, and Biden backed down, Chang explained. And so Putin thought, well, clearly we can do more of this. He went on to mention that the Chinese, as well as the North Koreans, started making new threats following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We have China in the most rapidly building nuclear buildup since the Cold War, Chang said, arguing that U.S. enemies are thinking of coordinating nuke attacks on the United States. God knows we're heading into perhaps the worst moment in history, he warned.
Yeah.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah, it is. And it was, I think one of the things that people don't understand is where China is at economically. And just a few months ago, I actually had my eyes open to that. China is definitely a high-tech, big brother, social credit score, big brother system and all that. And that's what, again, Klaus Schwab wants to bring to the planet and to the United States. They have that. But it's the economic thing that I think would be the big driver for them. We got to do something. And I learned this, Pastor Jimmy. I had the privilege a few months ago, I was preaching in Singapore, and then went over to Taiwan and preached in Japan as well. And when I was in Singapore, the church that I was preaching, I had a great pastor down there. Before he became a pastor, he was a financial analyst for decades before God saved him, called him into ministry. And he'd worked for many, many years with China. And so, and he was with the Chinese elite in the country. So he knows that country very well, specifically economically. And he said, Pastor Billy, he says, people don't realize that China, as much as they are in technology and they're building the Belt Road system and they're advancing all this kind of technology, he says they are languishing economically. And they don't have like a big supply on hand to like, hard times hit. We've got a few months supply. He says it's nothing at all like that. And so you're seeing that it gives rise to China's perspective. We better do something.
Yeah.
If we're going to survive. And the smokescreen is they're this high-tech society, which they are, and everything's going great. It's not. The Chinese people and the people over there in Singapore next to them, and certainly Taiwan was there on ground. And that's why they're threatening to take over Taiwan.
Right.
And again, I didn't even know this. The history with Taiwan, the Taiwan people came from China. After Mao Zedong came, and then the other guy lost, and well, where'd they go? They went to Taiwan. And so basically those are the conservative Chinese.
Wow.
And that's why America has a relationship with them still to this day. But also Taiwan is a major producer of microchip technology, and China would love to get their hands on that, and that's why we're vested in that, because that's a major chip producer for the U.S. and things of that nature. So this is really what's going on behind there. If something were to happen to the Chinese economy, or if it were to officially pop, or things were done to it to make it deliberately go, they will be forced to do some drastic things. And I think that's why you're seeing them gear up, because they can see the writing on the wall. We can't keep doing this. We need to increase our territory. We need to increase our wealth. And the way that you do that is you take over different countries.
Well, especially before the election, because they fear Trump winning the election.
Oh, well, right, exactly. And that's why a lot of these folks are dumping whatever they can to help Biden and Harris, because why are we seeing this? Exactly what Chang was saying. Because we have a weak president. Why is Russia doing this? Because we got a weak president. Why is China threatening to invade Taiwan and the South China Sea and all this other stuff that's going on there? That's because we have a weak president. And the point is, it could change here very quickly. So if you're going to do something, you better do it now.
Iran had American hostages when Jimmy Carter was president, and Jimmy Carter was just a pathetically weak president.
Yeah.
And the day that Reagan was elected, he got him back.
Yeah.
Exactly. So very much. The only thing they understand, those kind of countries, they understand power. That's all they understand.
Right.
And power that you're willing to use against them.
Right.
And they smell weakness, across the world. So, Billy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah.
And great program. We're going to be back again next week now with Billy, talking about his book, Klaus Schwab, Joe Biden, and the Planned Destruction of America. Phenomenal book. This is also DVDs.
Yes, DVDs as well.
GetALifeMedia.com. And so go there and get Billy's book or the DVDs or both of them. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being a subscriber to endtimes.com. Your support means everything to us, and we hope that we are keeping you informed and encouraged. That is our goal. So thank you for joining me today. Come back next week for more Billy Crone.